everybody, and thank you for tuning in or zooming in, and thank you, Val, for inviting me. I'm not used to public speaking, so please forgive me. I will be reading off a prepared speech. I would like to give you an introduction to plant-based eating or vegan lifestyle, and then maybe we could have a few question and answers at the end. I believe Lucy, the nutritionist, is on hand to answer any questions that I don't know the answers to, so thank you, Lucy. Firstly, I will talk about the difference between plant-based eating and veganism. Being plant-based refers to someone who eats mainly fruit, vegetables, grains, nuts, legumes, and beans, but in their whole form. That's really important, i.e., unprocessed or minimally processed. However, a vegan is someone who chooses a multi-layered lifestyle, which includes not harming or eating or wearing any animal product. They often care deeply about the environment as well. Officially, you could be a vegan and live off pasta chips and Oreo biscuits, but I wouldn't recommend that. I believe that eating whole foods that are plant-based is the key to healthy living. I think a good way to look at transitioning towards eating more plant-based is to think to yourself, how can I add in more plants to make my meal more plant-based, rather than thinking, oh, I've got to stop eating meat and you're missing out. If your family eats animal products every day or most days, then it may be more realistic to begin with 1 or 2 plant-central dinners per week, or have a meat-free Monday, as Paul and Linda McCartney used to say back in the 80s. A lot of people ask where their daily protein will come from if they are not eating any meat, particularly if they are expending a lot of energy through exercise. It is true, as Val just said, that you have to think a little bit more carefully about putting meals together, but it is also extremely rare for people to be deficient in protein, especially in the wealthier countries. Protein can be found in all plants, but in small amounts, so diversity is the key. Lentils, beans, tofu, peas, and all soya products are particularly protein dense. As long as you have a diversity of plants every day, then you will be getting the 9 essential amino acids that add up to a full protein. Nobody asks a gorilla, a buffalo, or a rhino if he is getting enough protein. On the other hand, it is much more likely that people are low or deficient in fibre on a conventional diet. There is no fibre in animal products. The Heart Foundation recommends 25 to 30 grams of fibre per day. And we know that some tribes in Africa have been studied in Tanzania called the Hadza tribe, who eat up to 100 grams of plant fibre per day. And supermarkets try to encourage us to eat 5 portions of fruits and vegetables per day, which is quite laughable, when they know that research shows that we should be having 8 to 12 portions per day. The fibre in plants helps to ease digestion and helps us to stay fuller for longer. It can improve alertness and brain health and may prevent colon and heart diseases. A really good idea that I try and do every few months is to write down how many unique plants I eat in one day. Ideally, you should be eating 30 different fruit, vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans in 1 week. Of course, it is fine to eat a banana every day, but that only counts as 1 unique plant. So if you have a portion of sunflower seeds, a portion of pumpkin seeds, that counts as 2. A red onion and a white onion is also 2. And then if you had wild rice, quinoa, spelt barley, that's 4 unique plants. You get the idea. Why not try and search out some more unusual vegetables at grocery stores, like Jerusalem artichokes, which are delicious roasted, daikon, which is a white radish, romanesco, which is sort of halfway between a cauliflower and a broccoli, or plantain, which is a sort of savoury banana, which is delicious in coconut milk. And maybe look at recipes on how to cook them. There are some great cooks on YouTube who are happy to share their cooking techniques. Now I'd like to share with you some ways of adding more plants into a meal. For example, if I have breakfast on toast for breakfast, which I do, sorry, breakfast on toast. Sorry. I have avocado on toast for breakfast, which I often do. I will have a whole grain toast, usually sourdough, as I find it more digestible and tastier. Then I will sprinkle mixed seeds and chia seeds on top. Sometimes I'll add cress, I'll add alfalfa sprouts, lots of fresh herbs like coriander and parsley. This is adding healthy fats, good calories, and extra fibre to an already healthy breakfast. Squeeze of lime will add some vitamin C too. If I have porridge, I will add a cupful of warmed frozen berries, some mango chunks, then maybe a chopped banana and some sprinkling of seeds and chopped nuts. This way I am full and rarely need to snack before lunchtime. In the same way for bigger family meals, there are lots of easy ways of putting in extra vegetables. For example, in a bolognese, you could add celery, carrots, peppers, for example, or parsnips or squash into a carrot soup. One of my favourite ways of adding a lot of variety is to buy one of those large Chinese stir-fry bags, which are about £1.50. Then add some extra mushrooms, edamame beans, mange tout and broccoli. And then served with whole wheat noodles and maybe some tofu, you have at least 10 different vegetables in one hit there. Our family has now been fully plant-based for 2 years, but it was a gradual process for most of us, apart from my son who went vegan overnight after watching a film called Carnage. That's a long story. I have been vegetarian, or flexitarian as I used to call it, since I was 18 years old. Back in the 80s, there were very few veggie convenience foods at all, especially in inner city Manchester, where I was a student. The only one I can remember was called Sauce Mix, which sounds revolting as well. It was a packet of dried, textured vegetable protein that you added water to and squidged into a sort of sausage shape and fried. I used to quite like them. There was also one health food shop in the whole of Manchester that I could find where you could buy carob chocolate, which was revolting, and packets of tofu if you were really lucky. The choices now, especially in large supermarkets, are quite extraordinary in comparison to then. Most shops now have a vegan or plant-based section. I'm sure you've seen them. Unfortunately, they're right next to the meat, which is a bit gross, but anyway. So in 2019, 25% of all new products created for supermarkets were plant-based. So it shows how much it's been growing and growing over the last few years. These products can be very helpful when trying to eat less meat, but I wouldn't recommend relying on them. It is much more preferable to home cook using whole grains and vegetables. Is everybody okay? Shall I just keep going? Yeah. If you are completely new to plant-based eating, then it is probably easier to start with a dish that you eat regularly and to veganize it, as the Bosch boys call it. For example, a chili is delicious made with green lentils and chestnut mushrooms, and then add a little miso paste or soy sauce to give it that lovely umami or savoury flavour. And then add in a tin of mixed beans rather than just kidney beans, which gives extra variety and different plant nutrients. A great tip, which I do most weeks, is to roast 2, 3 or 4 trays of different vegetables on a Sunday, and then use them during the week for different dishes. For example, the aubergine, butternut squash and onions can be made into a curry. The carrots, parsnips and butternut squash can be made into a big hearty soup. Peppers, onions and mushrooms come together to make a tasty wrap. I've attempted at home to make some chicken style pieces. One of my favourites is in a recipe by the Happy Pear. It contains cashew nuts, garlic and a special ingredient called vital wheat gluten, which is the protein found in flour. This gives it a great texture. I often make the pieces into little nuggets with a batter, lots of herbs and spices and breadcrumbs, and then fry them like American fried chicken. My teenagers love those. Tofu can also be used successfully instead of chicken. It is very versatile food because it has a pretty tasteless flavour on its own, but it absorbs flavours really well. It can take a few attempts to get it right. I would always use a firm tofu in a block like cauldron or tofu and make sure to drain it well and pat it dry. This means that it doesn't go soggy in whatever dish you use it in. It's a really good idea to cut it into cubes and then cover it with flour and then put lots of spices and flavours into that flour. So for example, if you're making a curry, then cover it in the flour, but then put some turmeric, salt and pepper, and then maybe some cumin or curry powder. And then if you were making a Thai dish, you could flavour the tofu with Chinese spices or star anise powder or something like that. Tofu cubes are always best cooked separately in a non-stick pan with a little oil spray and then added to a dish at the last minute, and this stops them getting soggy. My children really like tofu stir-fried in soy sauce and put them on top of beans on toast. When it comes to milk, there is now a fantastic array of choices: coconut, soya, oat, rice, almond, and even hemp and pea milks. Most of them are sold as long life, so don't need to be stored in the fridge until opened. And the supermarkets sell their own brands for about 60 to 90 pence per litre. There are more expensive milks like Alpro, Moma and Oatly. I don't think personally that they taste any better, but the only ones that I think are worth paying a little bit more for are the ones that say barista on them. And then if you like a frothy coffee in the morning, that works really well. But if you like soya milk, then there's no need because that froths very well. When my son turned vegan, he got 5 bowls of empty bowls, put a Weetabix in each one, and then tested all the different milks to see which one he liked best. His favourite was oat. Most of the milks are fortified, so is cow's milk. So it pretty much, if you look at the labels, it's pretty much got the same amount of calcium, protein, and B12 as cow's milk. There are also many products for other dairy-free foods. There are some delicious yogurts. Some of them are plain, some are with fruit, and we even have there's a Greek-style one as well that Alpro do. They usually tend to be made out of soya milk, oat milk, or coconut milk. Many people transitioning to plant-based meals find that the cheese alternatives are less tasty than their dairy equivalents. But I think my taste buds have changed, as I think there are some brilliant dairy-free cheeses now. BioLife and Cocoa are my favourites, plus Tesco and Asda own brands are very good. There's some brilliant flavours like Epic Mature, jalapeno, cheddar, blue cheeses, and there's even a Wensleydale with cranberries, which is really nice at Christmas. I have attempted to make a couple of cheeses at home. One of them is a bit like a mozzarella and was really easy to make. One day I could post that for you, Val, on your website. The other was like
Can I ask a question? What are they? So on what you're saying about the cheese, so what are they made of if they're not made?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. I don't know.
Oh, the cheeses.
The cheeses. What are they made? What are they? What cheese? What are they of if they're not out of dairy?
Yeah, well, the ones that I've made have all been made out of cashew nuts. I was about to say that. They must use. It's generally made out of a milk fat. So again, it's another processed food, isn't it? So it's not, as I was saying earlier, it's better if you can always eat whole grains and vegetables, but I'm just showing that there are alternatives to those flavorings. And I was going to get on to show you this one as well. So has anyone ever seen this before? I know that Zoom makes things go backwards, doesn't it, unfortunately? So this is called nutritional yeast. It's quite amazing stuff. So it says in big letters B12 on it. It's I put it in pretty much all my sauces. So instead of buying the cheeses all the time that are okay, and this is much cheaper, so I just have a big pot of this. It's like a yeast flake, and it gives everything a really cheesy flavour. So it's really good for sauces or just sprinkling on top of any dishes that require cheese, really. But that's really nice. So you've lost my where I'm up to now. So I keep going.
But so the ones, the cheese that you, or the ones that you were mentioning that you buy in the supermarket, what are they made out of? So what?
Yeah, I presume they're all made out of different dairy-free milks, and then they have to use some kind of xanthan gum or tapioca flour, or I don't know exactly what, but they use plant
You
gums
mean
to.
dairy-free milk, or you mean out of nuts and other stuff?
Yeah, all mixed. The ones that I've made at home are made of nuts.
Lucy,
And
do you know anything about how the other cheese are made of? What other
No,
things?
do you want me to get one? Maybe when we do the Q&A, I can go, because I've got some in the fridge, so I can have a
have
look
in your
at
house.
exactly
Oh
what
no,
the
that'd be great.
ingredients are.
Yeah, bring them and you can show us.
Yeah, I've got a few other things to show you as well.
Perfect.
Okay, yeah, so for example, I was going to say, let me see where I was. Yeah, so I was just going to say next about the nutritional yeast that I was saying that I put in a lot of sauces. When it comes to eggs, if you want eggs on toast, then I can't help you. But if you are baking or making a batter or pancakes that require a binding agent, then there are quite a few good options. My favorite is milled linseed. So you see that one. I know it's backwards, but sorry. So linseeds, if you have 1 tablespoon of linseeds mixed with 2 tablespoons of water, then it makes this really gloopy mixture, and that's equivalent to 1 egg. So whenever you're baking, you can use that instead of an egg, which is a really good tip to know. The other thing, which is it's made of tapioca flour and potato starch, I believe, is something called egg replacer. I don't use that very often, but I just had it as a standby. So again, if you're using batters, or it just gives it that rising agent or binding agent that you might need in some cakes or buns or whatever, if you don't want to use eggs. Oh, and the other thing, which is really freaky, I don't know how anybody found this out originally, but if you take a can of white beans, so either something like cannellini beans or butter beans or chickpeas, because they all have clear juice. So if you drain the beans and catch the juice, it's like a sort of cloudy liquid, and you can use that bizarrely instead of an egg. I don't know how it works, but somebody must have discovered that somehow. It's called aquafaba, which just means bean water. And apparently you can I haven't done it myself, but I've seen it on YouTube. You can whisk it and it makes a sort of aerated foam, and if you add sugar, you can make meringue out of it, which is quite brilliant. There you go, good tip for you there. Oh yeah, the other thing I was going to say is a soft tofu is really good for making things like quiches. So if you want to fill in the pastry, so if you mash a soft tofu with a little bit of milk and then obviously lots of veggies and flavourings, that works really well with the quiche. And I was just going to say, yeah, it's a bit, I was going to say about how, and most of you in the Lymington area, I'm presuming, because I believe you only have a Tesco and a Waitrose near to you, don't you? So I was going to say that I get most of my nuts and seeds and things like that. I either buy them online or get them from Lidl and Aldi, but I don't think you've got those nearby because they're a lot cheaper. That was just a good tip for you, that's all. I thought it would be a good idea to give you an idea what my 15-year-old son eats in one day. It is a lot. He is 5'9", quite a bit taller than I am, and he weighs about 70 kilos. He sails at national level in a laser. He cycles about 75 miles a week as he cycles to school and back, which is a long way. And he loves running, so he needs a lot of calories to keep him going all day. For breakfast, his favourite meal is beans and tofu on whole grain toast. That's a 400-gram tin of beans plus 200 grams of tofu and seeds on top. Mid-morning, he will have a fruit snack, which could be 1 banana, 2 oranges and an apple, or carrot and hummus or something like that. Then for lunch, he will eat 200 grams of pasta or gnocchi with a tomato or creamy sauce and peas thrown in for extra protein. Then for dinner, I'll just give you an idea of the kind of thing that we eat in the evening. These are some of our favourite family dishes. So cauliflower, potato and aubergine coconut curry with rice and flatbreads. aubergine, pepper and courgette lasagna with jacket potato and salad, or a Thai noodle stir fry, falafels with quinoa and wild rice and lots of salad, or homemade pizza topped with mushroom, peppers and red onions. We also like making sushi nori rolls, which we fill with carrot sticks, cucumbers, peppers, avocado and sesame seeds. Freddie will often have supper as well. Some toast with homemade peanut butter and almonds, which I brought. I always make my own peanut and almond butter, so it's got no added fats, because the nuts, once you blend them well enough, make their own, the oil starts to come out of them, so you don't need to add anything else. Yes, or you'll eat a giant bowl of bran flakes. As you can imagine, I do a lot of food shopping, but then so do most parents of teenagers. I also have 2 teenage daughters who have been sailing on and off since they were 8 and exercise pretty much every day. They often do high intensity training, you know, the HIIT exercises, or cycling or walking, or do yoga sessions. Girls in general often need a little extra iron-rich food due to having periods. So I make sure that they eat leafy greens, seaweed, whole grains, black beans, tofu and peanut butter to boost their iron intake every week, not every day. The girls are not as big eaters as Fred, whereas my husband definitely is. He is a long distance runner like Val and has completed many ultras, and also has a physically demanding job as he works in gardens, which requires a lot of extra calories. He is training at the moment for a second race around Mont Blanc in August, which is 300k, which takes about a week to complete. He has found that his recovery time after running long distances has got shorter since he was on a plant-based diet. Because of the difference in everyone's portion sizes, I tend to put a big dish of food in the middle of the table and let everyone help themselves. To summarize, it is sensible to first increase your fruit, vegetable and legume intake, and then gradually take away or reduce your portion sizes of meat. Also begin to introduce more varieties of beans. All of the varieties and more can be found pre-cooked in tins. Adzuki, borlotti, black turtle beans, pinto, haricot, butterbean, carrot, etc. I would add them gradually to your diet, as your gut may be a little bit more gassy to start with, but it will thank you in the long run. Again, I would stress that variety is key. Make every meal look aesthetically pleasing and colourful as possible. Every different colour is giving your body a different phyto or plant nutrient. It may sound a bit weird, but I take a photo of most of my meals. I only upload my favourite ones, but if my food looks photo-worthy, then it's much more likely to be colourful, delicious and nutritious. My other tip is to take it slowly. Everyone is at a different stage of their journey to health. I've been cooking for a friend of mine for over 2 years, and I've always cooked her plant-based meals, but she usually cooked for herself some meat and some fish. So I'm now say that she has been fully plant-based for 9 months, which is an amazing achievement. Don't beat yourself up about being 100% vegan or plant-based, but make efforts to move towards it. You'll be helping your health and saving lots of innocent lives at the same time. I've been talking a long time. Any questions?
Ali, tell us just choose 3 of your main dishes. You have amazing ones, really beautiful ones. Just 3 that you think are not very hard, and that you can give us, you know, some practical ideas.
Yeah, I would say, well, what we had tonight is one of our favorites. It was what I would call fajitas, but so just really simple wraps. We had red onions. I have 2 or 3 different colors of peppers. So again, you're getting all the different phytonutrients from the different colors. It had a little bit of courgette, aubergine, not lots of those, but just smaller slices. We also had cucumber and carrot sticks on the side. We had strips of tofu. What else did we have? And some guacamole, and then just put them in wraps. And the wraps are seeded and whole grain as well. So that's one of our favorites. Curries, I mean, we all adore curries. So we have as I said in the talk, cauliflower is always a favourite. I put lots of potatoes in curries because that helps to fill the boys up. So sweet potatoes, fantastic, really lovely flavour. Sweet and white potatoes go really well in a curry with cauliflower. Chickpeas are fantastic. There's a really good, which I've got loads of recipe books to show you as well, but there's lots of really quick, simple curry recipes. Like there's one where you literally use 4 tins. So it's a tin of tomatoes, a tin of chickpeas, a tin of green lentils, a tin of coconut milk, and then just fresh red onions and lots of herbs and spices. And that makes the most amazing dal. So I often use that as a base, and then I might chuck in some cauliflower if I've got some, or aubergines. We eat loads of curries, so I do that quite a lot. Another favourite, which is really easy, is Thai. So I don't usually make my own Thai paste. I let the experts do that. So I'll buy a really nice quality jar. All you need is the jar with coconut milk, and that's it basically. So whatever vegetables you chuck in, so I usually stir fry the vegetables first, and then put in the paste, put in the coconut milk, and then serve it with noodles or rice. So that's really easy as well. Is that okay?
Yeah, and with that, would that be like a complete meal? So we know we get all the nutrients we need.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, so it's really important that, you know, I can remember when I was learning in the 80s, I thought that every meal had to have the right amount of protein in it, but it's over, I mean, usually over a day, but it doesn't really matter. Maybe Lucy will contradict me, but I think if it's over 1 or 2 days, as long as you get a good variety of different protein sources, and they add up to make a complete protein. But anything that's made of tofu, so for example, edamame beans, or the green soya beans, or tempeh, so anything soya based like that is a full protein already. But the other things, you have to have little bits, which is why I say about the diversity. So you've got to have lots of different plants, and ideally some beans in a lot of meals, and that will always guarantee that you're getting enough protein. Yeah.
Hold on, Lucy. Wait. You are muted.
Unmute. No, Callie, I agree. It's over the course of a day, so you don't have to combine the proteins at every meal. It's over the course of the day, like you've said, and it's about making sure that you've got beans and rice, or grains and rice. Or grains and beans. And if you think about how people traditionally ate, like the dal is a typical example. You've got the lentils and the rice, and that gives you the complete protein. Mm-hmm. It's because the plant-based proteins are usually deficient in one of the essential amino acids, but they're deficient in different essential amino acids. So combining them gives all the essential amino acids. Mm-hmm. But yes, Kelly, I agree. It's over the course of a day.
Yeah.
Thereabouts. Maybe we can write down and put them on the website, which are the amino acids, and a few examples of, I don't know if you know them by heart, Lucy, if you can remember like all of them, and give us a couple of examples. I'm sure Lucy Dash is very sciencey. No, so a couple of examples. If we have about 9 foods in a day, like one example of each that we, what would you say?
I didn't understand that, Val. Say that again.
So the 9 that we need per day is
9. Oh, 9 essential amino acids.
Yes.
Yeah, that's hard to. I don't know what every plant has in each one. I just know that if you get a variety, it's extremely rare that you won't have enough protein. As I said in my talk, it's much more likely that people are short of fibre, not protein. If you read up on it, hardly anybody in Europe is deficient in protein. That's really not a problem.
It's more that, for example, I can't remember the exact names, but rice has 8 essential amino acids out of 9 and is lacking, I think it's leucine as it's called, but beans are lacking in another one, which I can't remember the name, but it's not leucine. So if you combine them, you make sure you get that essential amino acid. So it might be a quite time-consuming process to look up all the amino acids in all the foods. but you can look up the combinations, but essentially it's grains and beans, rice and beans, and anything legume-based beans and lentils goes really well with a grain or a rice. Quinoa is a complete protein, as are the soya products. So as long as, if you're having a curry,
my
rice,
cat.
put some beans in there, and that gives you the complete protein.
My cat's jumping on the laptop.
I would like that.
Oh dear.
Any other questions, Helen?
I just wanted to say thank you, because I had a question about vegetable curry, and I did a sweet potato and vegetable curry on the evening that the invitation went out to you, Callie. So thank you. Yeah, so it was pretty nice. All I'd say is that it took 8 to 9 hours to cook.
What?
So yeah, it was a sweet potato and coconut curry from BBC Good Food, but it was 8 to 9 hours. So I went to prepare it for the evening for the family, and then I was a bit shocked because I had to do another meal. So, but it was very, very nice. It had red cabbage, coconut milk. It had paprika, onion. It was very, very delicious, but it took a long time. So yeah. So, but apart from that, thank you very much.
Lucinda, we have here. Most of us know Lucinda, also from Leamington, Sway nearby. You guys have been vegetarians for ages, and you have been experimenting lots of vegan eating as well.
Are you talking to me, Val? Sorry.
Yeah, I think you're the only Lucinda here. Yeah. So stay with us.
Be talking at the same time. Yeah. No, actually, Molly and I have been being vegan this January. So I had a little ask Callie lots of questions at the beginning of the month and got lots of tips and things. So we are halfway through, but it's good. But yeah, we've been veggie for years. So actually the adapting to being vegan hasn't been like too difficult. And so just a few things that I've had to kind of cut out. But
apart from the turkey at Christmas.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. I wasn't even remotely tempted. Yeah.
No,
actually. So that was good. But
what's an idea of your favorites, Lucinda?
Curries. We had 2 curries tonight. We had Joff made one and I made another. So yeah, they're always really good. We do lots of chilies, so you can put lots of beans in. And right, obviously it goes with the rice. We use tofu a lot. I don't really we do sometimes get veggie sausages and things, but occasionally I don't really like the substitutes that much. Actually, I have tried the vegan cheese and it's not great, so I'm gonna not really go for that, but I might try Kelly's mozzarella recipe if I could have.
Any other recipe that
yeah, so it's been
any other recipe that is not a curry or a chili?
I'm sure there's loads, but I can't think. I did a really nice paella the other day without any meat. Oh God, you put me on the spot and I can't think, but we do loads of things.
Yeah, you do lots of lovely things. Yeah, pasta with tomato sauce.
Yeah, well, no, lots of different sauces. I'm going to ask Callie or Lucy just about, we've been taking, what supplements, it's the stuff that you can't get from plants, like B12. No.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that, Lucy. You probably know a lot more than I do.
Okay, I'm happy to talk. So, I'm sorry that I missed the beginning bit. I was having problems with sound, so I missed the sort of introductions. But anyway, I think everyone knows that if you do go completely vegan, you have to supplement B12 without a doubt, because you can only get it from animal sources. But one of the products that Callie showed, the yeast, that will have B12 in it. So you've got to look at having some kind of B12 supplement in your diet, whether it's a supplement or a powder that you put on food. The other thing you've got to be careful for with vegans is the iron levels, which Callie mentioned, particularly for girls, and for men as well. But iron is something that you can get from vegetable sources like the green leafy veg, but it's not as well absorbed from those sources because the fibers in the vegetables hinder the absorption of iron. So spinach, for example, has got iron in it, but the phytates in the spinach hinder that absorption of iron. Now, for some people, that's not too much of a problem, but if you are somebody that has a tendency towards anemia, and some people genetically do have that, that would be something that you'd need to look at. And you could supplement an iron quite easily if it was a problem. But you can go and get tested from the GP and see if that's an issue. So that's the iron. The other thing is zinc. Most people meat eating or plant eating don't get enough zinc anyway. So if you are not eating, the foods that are high in zinc are meat, fish and eggs. So if you're not eating those foods, you'd need to keep an eye on the zinc levels. Zinc is really important for growth, for teenagers, hormone health, skin health, reproductive health. That's just to name a few. So that's the three: B12, zinc and iron. You also need to keep an eye on your vitamin D and your vitamin A levels. Again, the vitamin D can be tested, and in the summer it's not so much of an issue, but those are really the key nutrients. Now, the other interesting thing is that vegans and vegetarians also tend to consume a higher amount of the omega-6 linoleic acid, the one of the essential amino acids. We've got omega-6 and omega-3, which people probably heard of. So vegetarians and vegans tend to consume a lot more omega-6 because they're in oils and seeds and those sort of foods. And the problem is that for vegans, the omega-3s are not found in very many seed foods, and they're often found with the omega-6s. And the problem is when you have too much omega-6 is good, but when the balance is wrong with the omega-3s, it can lead to problems with inflammation. It's linked to inflammation. Omega-3s, the fish oils essentially, obviously you can only get those from fish products. And there's a problem with conversion because you can eat the oil that comes above in the biochemical pathway, but you don't convert it very well. So if there are inflammation problems, you could look to taking a vegan source of EPA and DHA, which you can get from algae. They do special ones that actually have the correct omega-3, and that can correct the balance. That's going quite into fine-tuning things. But it's something to bear in mind because a lot of people don't know that they've tested blood and red blood cells and platelets of vegans and vegetarians compared to omnivores, and the profiles of the fatty acids in those cells are different, and that has implications for inflammation. I think that's probably the main nutrients that you would need to just bear in mind.
Yeah, I agree. We try and I have B12, vitamin D in the winter, and just well, actually I have a menopausal one that says for over 50s. So that seems to hit everything.
Yeah,
I haven't recently, but over the years I've always been able to give blood, and I've never been low on iron. So, and I've been pretty much vegetarian most of my life, so I haven't had a problem with iron.
But it also goes that when we're talking about personalized nutrition, no one size fits all. And there are some people that do absolutely brilliantly on vegan diets and feel wonderful. And there are some people that make the switch and really don't feel good. And there are genetic factors as well. There's people genetically can't make certain conversions, can't do certain biochemical transitions, and that affects the way that they are dealing with the nutrients. So it's a bit of kind of try it and see, make the switch or make the switch slowly and see how you feel. If you feel great, that's good. If you don't, then, or if you are having problems with iron and zinc and things like that, then your body needs to eat in a different way. It's a very individual thing.
Darren's joined me, but he's hiding, Val.
I know, I can see him. Hi, Darren.
Hi Val, how are you?
It's Clive here as well.
Hi Clive.
Any other question? It would be nice if everyone asks a question. Shall I go round? Caroline, Neil?
On the spot.
No, don't ask me. No, Caroline and Neil here.
This is a bit of a question. Could you boil it down to like sort of 4 or 5 golden rules, right, of cooking? That moment when it's like 6:30 at night. What about, you know, what everyone's eating? You know, what are the sort of golden rules? What can you just whip together, right, to create a nutritious thing?
I think actually you have to go back a step. It's more about what you buy in the supermarket first and what you're going to have available.
Callie, how about that?
Yeah. So I always make sure that my cupboards are full of things that will last a really long time. So I buy fruit and vegetables once or twice a week, but I always have tins and packets. So like the beans that I was talking about, nuts, seeds. I have lots of spices and herbs. I freeze herbs, which is a really good idea if you don't know. So usually have pots of fresh herbs on the windowsill, but then I also freeze excess herbs so that I can use them. It's more about having things accessible and building up a repertoire of foods, because it's quite difficult just to say to you, yes, you can always make a curry, yes, you can always make a stir fry. Stir fries, what my daughter who's at university, she says she's living off stir fries at the moment because that's the best thing she can think of to make. But it's more about playing Ready Steady Cook. Do you remember that program from the 90s? It's having that knowledge of seeing a few vegetables on the table and knowing what goes together. And yeah, I usually actually, when I think about it, I often pick a country. So for example, like tonight I said we had wraps, but it's got a sort of Mexican flavour to it. So I would always make sure I've got paprika or, you know, a Cajun spice or something like that. So another night it might be a Thai night or a Chinese night, and then that sort of gives you a theme to work on. But if you haven't got the ingredients in the cupboard, it's a bit harder. But I do have lots and lots of recipe books as well. So if I do get stuck, then usually you can find something.
Kelly, you're saying that you're not starting with a clear idea of what you're going to make right at the beginning. It kind of creates itself and forms.
Yeah, it can often be if the teenagers are saying, oh, please can we have pizza tonight or whatever, I've got to make the dough ahead of time or whatever. Or there's not that many things that I have to massively prepare ahead. Like I was saying about the roasted vegetables, it's a really good idea to have lots and lots of already cooked vegetables so you can get those out. Oh, I know another thing I didn't actually mention, which makes life easier, is I know they're a little bit more expensive, but if you buy some of those mixed packets of grains, so there's some really good ones that have got quinoa, wheatberry, bulgur wheat, all in one pack, and they're usually less than £1 each. I always search out for the cheaper ones wherever I go, and they're really handy because, especially like at lunchtime, if I can only find a few mushrooms and half a pepper and an onion, I know I can stir fry those and just chuck half a bag of grains in, which is what Darren does for his packed lunch most days. He puts it all in a flask, so whatever leftovers we've got from last night's dinner, he'll stir fry it first thing in the morning with half a packet of grains and then stick it in a flask for his work during the day. So yeah, there's lots of things like that that are really handy as well.
Okay.
Could I just chip into your question, Neil, about, so you get to 6:30 in the evening and you want to put together a sort of balanced vegan meal. Is that what you're asking?
Indeed, yeah.
Okay, so let's just make this really simple. So start with, like, open the fridge and see what vegetables you've got. Start with an onion and saute up, you know, onion, courgette, pepper, whatever you've got. Look in the cupboard and select a kind of bean or a lentil So maybe a tin of haricot beans, or if you've got some like those red lentils that don't take very long, cook those up and throw those in. And then think about a grain that you could have with it, like a rice or even bread, because the wheat also contains protein. So you've got your bean and your grain, or your lentil and your grain combination. And as Callie said, those packs of grains where you get a mix of sort of wild rices or bulgur wheat. And then think about a sauce. So maybe a tin of chopped tomatoes or a coconut sauce or something to give it a bit of liquid. And that could be a very simple, balanced vegan meal created in 20 minutes. I don't know if that gives you a very, very basic structure. You know, throw in some garlic, throw in some herbs, but start with opening the fridge and seeing what vegetables are there, chuck them in.
All right.
Yeah.
Your bean of protein, select your grain, select your sauce and your spices, and
That's the order. That's the approach. Still said, it still sounds terrifying, right?
Really?
Yeah, it does.
The other handy tip is to have, if you've got a decent sized freezer, a lot of the supermarkets do really cheap vegetables that are already cut. So I mean, onions, it sounds mad, but sometimes you only need like a few little bits of onion. You don't want to chop a whole onion. So if you just take, you know, a couple of tablespoons out of the bag in the freezer, it's so cheap. It's like, I don't know, 80p for like half a kilo or something. So that's really handy as well, just to, you know, butternut squash comes already cubed. You don't have to spend ages peeling and chopping it, and things like that, really handy as well.
Oh, brilliant.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I had a quick question. I don't know, I was a bit late, so I don't know if you covered it off. Cheese, and I know you talked about cheese substitute, but is there anything that is a vegan cheese that is nice to eat by itself?
Yeah, so we did talk about this a little bit. That I could ask Darren to get some of them, because Val was asking what's actually in them. Do you mind getting them? Yeah, so I was saying, and Lucy mentioned it as well, there's something called nutritional yeast, and that's, I know it's backwards, sorry. So it's can you see inside? It's like a sort of yellow flake.
Yeah.
So that's for cheesy flavour, obviously not as a block. So if you want an actual grated cheese or a block of cheese, then you would have to buy one of the dairy-free versions. I think Darren's going to try and find some for me, hopefully. But yeah, they're made out of fats and oils. I mean, sometimes they're made out of coconut milk, and it's been pressed, and they've used something like a xanthan gum to hold it together. So it is a processed food, but you know, it's a fat, like a regular cheese is a fat as well. So use it sparingly.
Okay. I mean, could you get?
I just have a quick look, Val, because you were asking me what's in the. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll just have a quick look.
This is a personal view, and I think probably in this, I think similar to Lucinda and Geoff, I just sometimes feel like, you know, if you're going to eat cheese, eat cheese. Otherwise, if you're going to go vegan, just focus on the beautiful, lovely flavors that a vegan diet has, rather than trying to have something that is made out of whatever, processing lots of things. But that's personal.
So, for example, this one here, which is cocoa, this one's made out of coconut milk, water, potato starch, and then it's got flavorings. I mean, it's all natural, but it's got acetic acid as a preservative, which is only lemon juice, a yeast extract, which is what I showed you there, and it's got added vitamin D and added vitamin B12. See what this one's got. And that one's made of coconut oil as well. So it looks like most of them are made out of coconut oil by the looks of it. So basically you're just adding more fat into your diet, which you are with cheddar as well. So
yeah. So you can't get like blue veined.
Yeah, no, they do things like that as well. It's crazy. Like at Christmas, I bought a 3-pack, and it had a blue cheese, a Wensleydale with cranberries, and something like a cheddar, and they were amazing. Really, I thought they were really good for £5, 3.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll have to look out for them. I didn't know that variety, so thank you.
Okay.
One quick question, going back to the vegetables that are already cut and that. I'm not sure, Lucy, if you, because I think we had this conversation at some point before. Is it true that fruits and vegetables lose their nutrients once they're cut or peeled after a certain amount of time, unless they are frozen?
Yes, that is true, but that's why the frozen ones are good, because they're cut and frozen straight away, so it's
Not
preserved.
the ones that are not the ones that we get ready cut and that like already chopped in the fridge that has been done maybe a couple of days ago or the day before. Ideally, not.
To be honest, I'm not sure. I think that it's probably much of a muchness with the nutrient levels, but I think the main point here, and the point that Kelly's trying to make, that is actually that frozen vegetables are really good, and don't discount them. Don't just think they're kind of rubbish. Frozen vegetables are a really useful thing to have, because they're cut and frozen straight away, so you don't lose any of the nutrient value. That's not to say don't use the ones in your fridge. The honest answer, I don't know how quickly they degrade, and it would depend how finely they were chopped as to the surface area and all that. But I think
I do know quite an unusual fact. So I can't remember the name of the family, but broccoli and cauliflower have more nutrients if you cut them early and then cook them. There's something in them called sulforaphane, which apparently fights cancers. I honestly have read this. And if you cut broccoli and cauliflower at least 40 minutes before you cook it, then it has more sulforaphane in it.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
We'll do that from tomorrow onwards.
Another really good fact is that if you have grains left over, I know a lot of people are a bit worried about reheating rice. I've never understood that, because I think as long as once everybody's eaten what they want to eat, cover it up straight away and then put it straight in the fridge, even if it's warm, or make sure it's covered. And then when you use it the next day, so this counts for any grain and any pasta, the next day it's got more resistant starch in it, so it fills you up for longer, and it's actually got better nutritional properties in it. I can't explain exactly what it is. Lucy might know more about that, but when you reheat a grain or pasta or spaghetti, it's actually better for you than what it was originally. Is that right, Lucy?
Yes, it goes to resistant starch, exactly what you said, but it's the gut bacteria absolutely love it. So it's like cold potatoes. A cold potato has more resistant starch. It's to do with the cooling process, and the gut bacteria just feed on it and love it. And it's lower GI, I think, as well. It's lower glycemic index. So if you're comparing a hot potato to a cold potato is slower releasing carbohydrate.
That's for the ultra runner and for the athletes they are doing Ironman. Mariana, you want to ask something? Go for it.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I think on the rice thing, the critical thing is that it's piping hot. So if you're going to have it the next day, it's got to be piping hot. Otherwise, you can get potentially quite ill from it. So you either have it cold as a cold salad, or you have it hot, but it's the lukewarm that's the risky thing with rice.
Thank you. Good tip.
Aside.
Do you want to ask something, Mariana, as you're there?
Well, no, I just wanted to say, I thought it's fantastic to know about the complete kind of beans and rice, or, you know, or couscous or whatever because I mean, I've luckily traveled around kind of India and parts of Latin America and stuff, and that is absolutely classic. That's exactly what they eat. You know, they've been doing it for thousands of years, and in India and places, very, very vegetarian kind of cooking, and that's the natural balance, and it makes total sense. So, but it's really interesting to be actually told that, you know. It's, yeah, I thought that was really, really helpful. So thank you. I didn't realize the kind of the actual, you know, about the different acid, you know, the combo is an actual fact that you need to do. So that was really interesting. So thank you.
Antonia, do you want to ask something? or add something, because I think you have a bit of experience in vegan and vegetarian eating.
Well, my question was actually going to be about seaweed, because you always hear that seaweed's very nutritious. And I wondered why it doesn't seem to appear. Why aren't people eating more seaweed, particularly on a vegan diet? That's my question.
Yeah, I do. I always have a packet of nori seaweed in the cupboard, and as I said, we do make nori rolls quite often. My oldest daughter just eats it out the packet, which drives me crazy. We also have it shredded that I get from one of the Chinese or Indian shops. So it comes in a giant disc, and you just pull bits off it. And also in the summer we pick samphire when, you know, along by the harbour, but otherwise I don't eat any other seaweeds. But that's where fish get their omegas from, as Lucy was talking about earlier. So fish wouldn't have any omegas in them if they didn't eat the seaweed. So yes, we should be eating more seaweed generally. Yes, I agree.
Okay, but interesting to hear that you do manage to get some seaweed into your diet.
Yeah.
There's the stuff you buy from the Indian or Chinese shop. What's it called?
It's just called nori sheets.
Okay.
Yeah, again, I could send down to get the pack. The one in the big.
You have a good assistant there.
I've got my assistant now, yeah.
But just to say on that, you'd have to eat an awful lot of seaweed to get the right amount of EPA and DHA.
Right.
One of the reasons why seaweed is sort of touted to be healthy is it contains iodine, which supports your thyroid hormones. Thyroid controls your metabolism and energy levels. So that's why seaweed comes to the forefront. But yeah, you'd have to eat like bags of it probably. EPA, and then you might be overdosing on iodine. So
yeah, okay. Not a solution for that then.
Not a solution for that. But supplementally, they obviously take it from the algae in the seaweed and condense it down. So supplementally is fine, but to actually eat it,
Not going to work that way. No.
No, but talking about the fats, to shift your balance of the fats on a completely vegan diet is to increase your consumption of flaxseed, sometimes called linseed oil. So adding that to salad dressings and on food. And walnut oil is high as well in the linoleic acid, in the omega-3, the plant omega-3. You're still not going to convert it to the EPA and the DHA very efficiently, but it's a good start to readdressing the balance. So that's linseed oil or flaxseed oil and walnut oil.
Or the milled seeds, because if they're milled, they are easier to absorb than whole seeds.
Absolutely, you won't get the oil from the whole seeds. You'll get good fibre because it's excellent for fibre, but you won't get the oils. But again, to really get those levels of oil up, you've got to eat a lot of milled linseeds.
All right.
But when you buy the oil, obviously it's concentrated down. It's not to say don't eat the milled linseeds, they're brilliant, but if you are trying to shift the balance of the fats, you've got to eat a lot of them.
There's 4, I can't remember them now, but there's 4 seeds that ideally you have to combine and grind up, isn't it? Can't really remember what, but sunflower, linseed,
the sesame seed and
pumpkin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pumpkin and sunflower are slightly higher in the omega-6. They still got the omega-3 in them, but it's just if you are looking to really readdress the balance, it's shifting up the walnut and the linseed in comparison to the others. But yeah, a seed mix like that is brilliant if you can grind up seeds and add it into cereals or porridge or breads or something.
I actually write rules on mine as well. So on the top it says 1 teaspoon a day. So that's when the kids go in the cupboards. It's a reminder that they have to have some mixed seeds every day.
Good idea.
Can I just ask, how do you get the kids to buy into all the seeds and stuff? Because I mean, I think it's great, but how do you, because I've done lots of hiding veggies in sauces for years. and they don't even know stuff they really hate, but it's in there. But the seeds, which has such a value, how do you get them to kind of,
it
you know,
is quite hard.
Things, but I haven't actually tried that yet.
Yeah, so I would say one of my daughters is more resistant to eating the seeds and what have you. But sometimes I just say to her, look, drink it, just get a teaspoon, drink it with some water, you know, if it's that bad. And she like having a tablet, you know, she'll just drink it with water, and I'll just say, give it a chew. There you go, gone. But if you think about it, I've been doing this for years. So we've only been fully plant-based for the last 2 years, but I've been trying to make the family healthy forever. So it's kind of a gradual process where
long, slow,
sometimes I just chuck them in and say, just eat it. But yeah, there are lots of ways of hiding fruit and vegetables.
You can't kind of like sprinkle on toast on butter or whatever, and kind of like,
you know, but Freddie always puts seeds on toast. He would always put seeds on top of his beans on toast.
Okay. I'll give it a go.
That's an idea as well.
Thank you.
About seeds. What I do with my children, they're a tiny bit, it's easier with the younger ones than the older ones, but when I make porridge, I put loads of jars on the table with lots of different seeds, like the pumpkin and the sunflower, and lots of spoons, and they have to take one from each jar, their youngest, and they quite like it because it's like a bit of a game. They have, oh, I'll have a bit of that, and oh, I'll sprinkle that, and oh, I'll have that on some porridge.
We will have
porridge. Nobody does porridge. Years. It's like, no, we can't go there. But otherwise, sounds great. I mean, I would, yeah.
But we will have this talk again when Lucy's children are between 14 and 18.
Yes, and
we'll see, you know, what is this about it.
Pizza with grains, that would be great.
Yeah. Liz, did you want to ask anything? Go, something.
Just a couple of things really. So we have a mixed diet. We have a lot of vegetables, and yeah, we quite a few plant-based meals as well. Two things. One is if anyone's got any ideas for green lentils, because in the first lockdown I bought a massive bag of green poi lentils, and there's half of them are still there, so they need to go at some point. So any ideas are much appreciated. And then the other thing is, in my quest to use less packaging at home, I'm always bemused that we've got some oat milk at home, for example, and I've got a feeling it's something like 6% oats and the rest is something like water. And I just wonder whether you can just your own at home, just blitz it and make that. I don't know if anybody's tried that. I was very impressed with your idea of peanut butter there, Gally.
Yeah, on the oat milk, I've tried making oat milk and cashew milk. They're okay, but the trouble is you tend to get the little grainy bits, and unless I've got quite an expensive blender, but still it doesn't seem to quite blend it enough as the products do that you buy. So yes, you can make them, and I would think you'd have to sieve them quite a few times and have a really, really fine like muslin cloth or something, but you can do it. But then I kind of think I've got better things to do during the day than making my own oat milk. And some people do like to make things like that, but I prefer to make my own bread rather than spend time making milk. But yes. I've forgotten what your other question. Oh, the green lentils. Yeah, the green lentils. Gosh, I mean, I did mention the quick curry. I use is yours a packet or is it a tin like this one?
They're dry. It's a massive
it's
bag.
a dried one. Oh, okay. Well, gosh, I would just have that with. I mean, they take about 30 or 40 minutes to cook at least, don't they? Those. I would just put garlic, onions, and lots of spinach, and they'd be absolutely delicious. But yeah, again, it's the classic curries, or add some beans and some tomatoes and peppers. You could make it a bit more Mediterranean, but yeah, you've got a lot to get through by the sounds of it. Anyone else got any other ideas for that?
Yes, I do. Green lentils actually go very well with bacon. Now, I know that we're talking about plant-based, but you did say that, you know, this is about adding things in. And it's just, I live down in France, and a lentil and bacon salad is quite a standard dish that people might bring to a barbecue. And it was funny because I'd never thought about combining the two, because they're almost in two different camps. Like, why would you ever mix lentils with bacon? Because they're sort of, but actually it's a really good combination with some onions and some other vegetables. It just gives a really nice flavour. So
Lovely, thank you.
And talking about making the milks, I did make soya milk once about 20 years ago, and I've never made it again, exactly why, but it all separates out. Yeah. And that's when you buy the alternative milks, they do have to put stabilizers in them to stop that happening. So it's quite interesting as to what they have to put in to stop.
I think that's the tricky thing, really, isn't it, with the plant-based diet, is that we're still at a bit of a stage where we're trying to substitute the meat and dairy option with something comparable, which I guess, for example, so many people are in the habit of putting a milk or some kind of milk onto their cereals, or having the cheese. I guess one day, hopefully we'll get to a stage where it's all recognized in its own right as being a good food. But I guess maybe that's the problem with the plant-based milk, because it's trying to duplicate something that we expect to see in our diets.
Yeah, no, I agree. And maybe we shouldn't be looking to swapping things. We should just be looking to either stick with what we have and add in more vegetables, add in all those things, or not have them at all and get to
embracing a new thing.
Yeah, because I'm a bit with Val on the process things. That's I'm a sort of OCD label reader when I go to the supermarkets, and this is what I struggle with the alternative milks. I'm picking up oat milks and almond has been added in, and I thought, is it better for me? It's better to sort of have the organic milk that's come from a dairy that I know than the almond milk that's got xanth gum and something. That again is a personal choice. That's sort of what going through my mind.
I totally agree with that. I was going to say,
some people
anyone
drinking milk altogether, because really it's not, it's kind of, if you like it, as in the tea, or people that used to put it in cereals, but I know lots of people that don't drink milk at all in the diet, so maybe no need to substitute, but maybe have something different for breakfast, or have black tea, black coffee. Hi, Molly. Molly is a vegetarian converted into vegan who brought a turkey for Christmas home.
That's true, and she works at the butcher's, so. Oh dear.
It's funny. Catherine?
You mentioned making your own peanut butter. I have a daughter that devours the stuff. How do you do that? I could just look it up, but I could ask you instead.
Yeah, it's really easy. So I usually, rather than just doing peanut butter, I do peanut and almond, but you have to have a really good blender. Yeah. So I usually dry toast the almonds just a little bit, but I leave the skins on because I think it's really nice with the skins. And then, so I usually have about half the amount of almonds to twice as much peanuts. And I do have salted peanuts because it's really nice. But I don't have salted almonds. So the almonds are unsalted, peanuts, twice as many peanuts, and then blend and blend and blend. And it takes quite a while until the oils start to come out, but it is actually quite smooth. I don't know if you can see it. So I made that this afternoon, and I make that at least once a week. And it's pretty smooth, and there's nothing else added at all, just peanuts and almonds blended. Hi, Joe.
Don't let me stop you.
Hello, we can't see your head though.
Amazing, thank you, Callie. That's great.
Okay.
Is Tony there? Because I can see a photo.
Yeah, I am here. I'm just lurking.
Would you like to ask something?
Yeah, no, thanks for that. But you mentioned about recipe books. Do you have a couple that you have as a go-to when you're planning out your meals and things?
Yeah, I have literally hundreds, well, not hundreds, but a lot. I could just show you a few of them. So we have, I don't know if I can carry them all. These are my favourite ones that I brought. So can you see where I'm holding them? So we've got Bish Bash Bosh, these guys, two northern blokes from Sheffield, and they do YouTube free cookery lessons online. They're brilliant. So do the Happy Pair. So these guys are from Ireland on the West Coast, and they do loads of online YouTube stuff. Rachel Amma is fantastic. She does lots of, it's a bit different, so we get lots of Caribbean dishes from her. She's really good. This one's fantastic. It's brand new, so look at the front cover. It looks like blood, but it's a beetroot. So these guys, they're actually American. So if you've seen in Tesco, there's the Wicked Healthy brand. So they've been chefs for years and years, and they do like to mimic meaty foods and try and recreate them, usually using mushrooms. They're mad on mushrooms, these guys. So they're really good. Deliciously Ella is the classic. She's gluten-free as well, so she's a little bit different. And then I really like Doctor's Kitchen. He's not vegan, but he advocates adding plants into diet. He actually did a TED talk, which was really interesting, and he called it something like One More Plant. So a bit like how I started at the beginning of my talk. He always says, whatever meal you've got, just add another plant, and then you're adding in lots of nutrients. So as well as recipes, he does lots of chat about what goes into it. And then, yeah, the Bosch Boys as well. So they're my favourite ones. Really good. Yep.
Okay, great, thanks. Yeah, I know the Happy Pair. I've done a few of their splits
Yeah.
over the time, but yeah, that's great.
Can Lucinda and Geoff add any more books to the list? Because I know you guys have lots of lovely books.
Oh, I'm not muted. I'm looking into my books here. We use Ottolenghi books a lot. He's great, and he does he does meat stuff as well as veggie. Looking over there, and Hugh Fernley Whittingstall, I've got loads of his books. He's good, and we have lots of curry books too. I recommend. So yeah.
Great. What about Fiona?
Hi, well, I think all my questions were really more about sort of making it more of a lifestyle. It doesn't scare me doing the cooking. It's the shopping and getting everybody in the family to buy into it, which you've obviously done. I'm not sure I would have that much success, but I'm probably going to go for more of the slow approach and just try and convert slowly. But I really like the ideas that you've given us, so thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do have one of my daughters was, I wouldn't say resistant, because I was never trying to force her ever. I always said to her, I will cook. She only particularly liked chicken and fish, and it's only in the last few months that she's given those up. But she did do it for herself. I obviously didn't make her, but I would often make a dish, and then I would make some chicken on the side for her. And often, you know, if someone in the family is not up for going completely plant-based, then you have to respect their wishes and cook something alongside, which I've done for years. So yeah, that's how I've tackled it.
I really liked your idea of roasting lots of vegetables, maybe on a Sunday, so that they're ready, because I think my biggest issue would be time. I know everyone always says that about cooking from scratch, but yeah, it's the, you know, the planning ahead and the shopping and having those things to hand. So that was really good.
Yeah.
I think it ebbs and flows with the children as well. So ours were plant-based for ages, and then it's like some of them started eating fish, and then they went back to just being vegetarian. We've now got a daughter who works in the local butcher, so I'm not sure if we succeeded or failed. But...
You can do the talk next time then, Geoff.
How I failed.
Any more tips for Fiona of how to get the family a bit into it?
I mean, I'd only say if you get them involved in the making, because I found some things that they started off saying, oh, I won't touch that. If they're actually making something, the end product, slightly more chance, but that's all I'd say.
Yeah.
Get Richard to do all the chopping.
Yeah, I can say it's not my little person, it's my big person who'd be resistant, I think. I think Lucy has that problem as well, maybe, do you?
Yeah, I'd say, Fiona, as well, you know, go slowly. Start with one vegan meal, you know, 3 times a week. And also it's kind of like not make what I find works with my, not the children, but with the other one, is actually just don't make a big deal about it. Just cook a veggie chili, and you don't even need to say it's a veggie chili, just it's chili with vegetables. So it's not like a conscious thing. Or we have a few kind of vegetable curries, and again it's a curry. Yeah, it's the fact that it's got no meat in it. It's not really a big deal. That's going to work. Yeah, and just substitute. I mean, personally, we wouldn't ever go.
Oh, lost you.
Lost her.
Just a week. So, and also adding stuff in, you know, making lentils and beans more of a normal kind of food. Because I think the kind of traditional English way of eating that some of us have been brought up with, it's like your meat and meat and potatoes, and then a bit of token veg on the side, and it's just totally changing the balance of that and changing what's seen as normal. You know, and I like the adding in a plant a day. You know, when you have a meal, have 2, 3, 4 vegetables. I'm a really big fan of, more in the summer, of things like coleslaws, where you're shredding up loads of different kinds of vegetables and giving loads of choice on vegetables. So maybe you might have a little bit of chicken or fish, but then have masses of salads, so that it's kind of crowding out those foods with the other things.
Yeah, and not always making, like, I know it's tempting to say, what's dinner tonight? It's chicken, it's beef, it's, you know, don't think of the meat, think of the sort of dish, or as I said before, the country. So just say, oh, we're having Mexican, it sounds more exciting than, yeah, we're having chicken or whatever, you know, just sort of think of a theme, or give it a more flowery name, or as I said, you know, make it look beautiful and photo worthy, and it's bound to look more appealing, especially for younger children. That doesn't always work with teenagers, but
yeah.
Right.
And I like what you said about not making a big thing of it. That the Much More Veg book we've got from Hugh Fernley-Whittington, it's just a lovely book full of amazing meals with vegetables, and you go through it and you think, actually, this is completely vegan, but he doesn't make a big thing of it being vegan. He just makes really lovely dishes that everyone enjoys cooking and eating. So yeah, let the food stand for itself, I guess.
And have some ideas on my Instagram page if anybody wants to. I know some of you said that you'd already had a look, but there's lots of ideas on there. I don't always put the full recipe, because often it's just a few mushrooms chucked in and that kind of thing, so you don't really need the recipe. But if it's something brand new that I've not made before, or I've copied it from a recipe book or something like that, I'll put right out the ingredients. So
we share the link with everyone. But Ellen, you haven't asked any questions tonight.
Hold on.
Hi.
Hiya, thanks. It's all been very interesting. In the fact, I'm not a vegan or a vegetarian, and I don't think I would honestly be able to change, or not be able. I think I could do it, but I don't think at this stage of life, I don't think I want to. I did in the first lockdown do a couple of vegan cookery lessons, and they were really good and everyone enjoyed it, but I just found it was a lot of work. It just seemed that I was just forever cooking, and although we enjoyed it, it sort of all became a little bit the samey. So I don't know I think, you know, it's just a case of maybe for us having 2 or 3 days in the week plant-based to make it sort of a mixture.
Good idea.
That's brilliant.
With regards to rice, do you have brown or white rice, or do you not really?
I have a mix. I have again a pantry, an organised pantry of everything. So I literally have white rice, brown rice. I have multicoloured quinoa. I have spelt, barley. I have lots and lots of different ones. And often I look at the packets and see how long they take to cook. So, for example, when I'm doing white rice, it takes 10 minutes, exactly the same as quinoa. So if you throw in a handful of quinoa as well, you're adding in more protein and you're adding in a different phytonutrient for your microbes, as we were talking about earlier. And if some of them take longer to cook, again, I'll judge it. So like red rice, that takes about 35 minutes to cook. So I'll put that in, and then towards the end, I'll add a few, I don't know, bulgur wheat, or sometimes orzo, which is like pasta rice or something like that. So I nearly always do a mixture. I hardly ever just do one rice on its own, but I cook them all in the same pan.
So that's just I want to clarify this, like the talk is for general nutrition, because talking about rice, something that we talked a lot with Lucy. What Callie says is what we would do as well. However, this is not sports nutrition or pre-race. You know, if you're thinking about triathlon and competing and that, things might change in terms of what rice to use and you know, so just I'm just saying in general, because I know there's a few triathletes here. This is like everyday general nutrition for triathletes as well, but that doesn't necessarily mean that will be maybe the sort of rice you might choose to have. Depends what sort of race you're doing, obviously. But yeah, just clarification. Caroline, are you there? Caroline Woodford?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hi, Caroline.
Hi, yes. No, it's very interesting. I mean, I try and have sheep's yogurt rather than cows because it's better for your digestion. But it's very interesting, you know, all the things that I'm going to be trying now.
Would you like to ask something to Callie or Lucy?
What can we flavour your foods with if you don't like spice?
You there? Caroline, hello? You've gone.
Which one? I'm here. The other Caroline or me?
No, to you. Would you like to ask any? Would you like to ask anything about maybe how is vegan diet with inflammation, or you know, things like that? If it has an impact on infections and things that we were talking about the other day.
Yes, I think I should cut down on sugar because I do have an awful lot of sugar, and I try not to have it because I think that's probably not good. Have too much sugar.
Sugar is vegan, isn't it?
Is it?
It is, but I find that it's a really good excuse not to eat it, because most biscuits, buns, cakes, chocolates, anything that anybody offers you very rarely is vegan because of the things that are mixed together with it. So it's a really good excuse to say, oh no, thank you, I can't eat that. So it sounds a bit sad, but I only eat 70% chocolate, and we do bake at home, but not very often, or I don't eat it very often. But, but most products that you buy in the shops have got milk powder or eggs or something in them, so you wouldn't be able to eat them anyway if you were fully vegan.
Ask them what their opinion of.
Yeah, what's your opinion of palm oil?
Well, my peanut butter doesn't have any in because I made them myself. I generally try not to buy anything that's got palm oil in it. So that's my opinion on it. Yeah.
Yes.